to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd, and the Philadelphia Union get blocked by Atlanta United down at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And hopefully, while we're recording this podcast, hopefully the power doesn't go out as we enjoy this lovely rain on a Monday evening. But hopefully you guys have now recovered from what we witnessed Sunday afternoon in a game. I think deep down inside, I had a feeling the Union were going to lose that game because I was not at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And you know what? The last two trips that I was down there, the Union didn't lose. They might not have won, but they didn't lose. And my buddy Brad, he's been to Mercedes-Benz Stadium the last 3 times. He didn't go to the game Sunday either. And when he's been down there, he's also not seen the Union lose. He's actually seen a Union win. And that was the 3-0 win in the CONCACAF Champions League against Atlanta United. And it's funny, I saw a post by the social media team by Atlanta, and they said the Union have still not won in Atlanta or something like that, or we've given the Union another loss, something like that. They were referring to the Union not winning in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and all these Union fans are posting, it's pretty funny you guys forget about what happened in 2021 in the CONCACAF Champions League, which eventually led to Gabriel Heinze getting fired by Atlanta because the Union absolutely played the socks off of that club. And that game in Subaru Park in the second leg, you had Heinze and Jim Curtin going at it after the game, and Jim Curtin called him a sore loser, and a lot of back and forth words through the media by both managers. And it's funny. Atlanta United want to forget and not make any mention of that game. Don't worry, Union fans have not forgot. But I told you guys, if somebody would fly my sister and I down to that game on Sunday, I can guarantee you the Union wouldn't have lost. And nobody took me up on that offer, which is fine. But this is what you get. You don't send me down there, and the Union go back to losing in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But of course, we have a lot to discuss this episode with a whole bunch of thoughts from that game. We're going to go ahead and throw in the goals breakdown in this podcast since there's only 2 goals to break down. We have Blunder of the Week, 3 stars, which was really difficult to come up with 3 stars on the night for the Union. There's only 2 that really stood out to me. And then the third one, I feel like it's a stretch, but we'll get to that later. But before this game on Sunday, there was huge news by Tom Bogert and The Athletic. And we're going to go ahead and talk about that news. And I think that's the only news that I saw this week when I was preparing for the podcast. Because if you're not on Twitter, Elon Musk has completely killed Twitter with a tweet reading limit. I think now, if you don't have Twitter Blue, you only get to read 1,000 tweets a day, and then Twitter breaks for you, and then you got to wait for the next day. And so Twitter's been really difficult to use, and I guess I've hit my limit a couple times where the pages don't refresh. All you see is old news. So I only want to talk about one bit of news, and that's going to be about Jim Curtin. But without further ado, let's get straight into the news. And so I'm sure all of you guys have seen this on social media by now. You guys have had friends texting you, but that is, Tom Bogert reported Sunday morning that Jim Curtin and the Philadelphia Union have agreed to a new long-term contract through the 2026 MLS season. Jim Curtin's contract was set to expire after the end of this season. We've heard Jim Curtin talk in the past about how we would be open to being an assistant coach with the USMNT And everybody was assuming, okay, well, he'll do that because Jesse Marsh will get the head coaching job. That doesn't happen. And then you see reports, people linking him. Well, Chicago Fire, he used to play here. Maybe Chicago Fire can pay Jim Curtin whatever he wants and he can take over the coaching duties in Chicago. Well, all that stuff has been put to bed because Jim Curtin says, you know what? I'm staying in Philadelphia. I love Philadelphia. This is a place I've always wanted to be. And Jim Curtin said after the game in Atlanta, nothing's official, but you guys can read between the lines. And I'm expecting probably on Wednesday, maybe on Thursday, we'll hear an announcement that Jim Curtin signed this deal. But once it becomes official, Jim Curtin is the second longest tenured coach in MLS since he took over in 2014. And when Tom Bogert announced this deal on Sunday, I was thinking, wow. So once this contract ends, Jim Curtin's going to have been the head coach of the Union for 13 years. And that's something that just doesn't happen often in sports, let alone in soccer. I mean, I said it. Jim Curtin, as things stand right now, is the second longest tenured coach in MLS, only behind Peter Vermees with Sporting Kansas City. Managers in MLS, managers in sports, do not stay at a club for more than a couple years. And then they get fired, or then they leave to take a better job elsewhere. 13 years Jim Curtin's going to have spent with the Union. And we've seen the last couple years Jim Curtin signing 2-year contract extensions. And now Jay Sugarman's looking after Jim and saying, you know what, we're going to take care of your long-term future. We're going to give you a 2.5-year deal. Not a 2-year deal, a 2.5-year deal. And so Jim Curtin has that stability, which he deserves, 100% deserves. And now we got to get the Ernst Tanner deal taken care of. Hopefully, Ernst wants to stay in Philadelphia, signs a similar deal to Jim Curtin that will run through 2026. But we're not talking about Ernst Tanner, and I am definitely going to bring up Ernst Tanner, but this is supposed to be about Jim Curtin signing his long-term contract. And Jim Curtin has said multiple times on record how thankful he is to Jay Sugarman for believing in him and sticking with him. You guys know that I've been fans of the Union since 2014. How horrible some of those years were. Curtin out, right? How many of you guys remember that? Curtin out. Close the curtain. Where so many people couldn't even spell Jim Curtin's name right, and they still can't. But it's getting better. People knowing how to spell Curtin. Curtin. Not Curtin. Still get occasionally people spelling it like that. Put some respect on this man's name. He's earned it. But Jim has been loyal to the Philadelphia Union. Jay Sugarman has been loyal to Jim Curtin when he had every reason early on to fire Jim Curtin. He decided not to. And it's paid off for him. I mean, look, the last 5 years, look what the Union have been doing. Since Ernst Tanner came in 2019 and started working with Jim Curtin. That's when everything for this franchise has changed. Once Ernst Tanner was made the sporting director. And going back to the point I was making, where managers don't stay in one place for 13 years. It's unheard of in today's sports world. When a team hires a brand new sporting director, GM, they usually fire the head coach and bring in their own guy. And you know what? To Ernst Tanner's credit, he decided, all right, let's see if I can work with Jim Curtin. Can Jim Curtin work with me? And they have. They have found great success with switching from a 4-3-3, from a 4-2-3-1 to playing the 4-4-2 diamond. It's a formation that Jim Curtin has come to love. Jim Curtin and Ernst Tenner work fabulously together. It was a match made in heaven, one that nobody was sure that's going to work out. Let's go ahead and try it for 2019, see what we can get. The Union play a brand new system in 2019. And what do you know? They win their first playoff game. You still have Harris Mandunanen pointing, not playing defense, but they win a playoff game. And we've seen this roster year after year change. And that's because of this man, Ernst Tenner. And a lot of people want to give credit to Jim Curtin for turning this franchise around in 2019. And he does deserve some credit, 100%. But I think a lot of this credit has to go to Ernst Tenner as well. Because can we talk about, for a second, the 2014 through 2018 seasons, the 3 blown U.S. Open Cups? Jim Curtin absolutely failed to get anything out of the 2017 roster, missed the playoffs, finished 8th. And when you look at that 2017 roster, you had 8 either current or former USMNT national team players. You had the likes of Chris Pontius, Ali Bedoya, Gooch, Charlie Davies, Marwa Dew. Fafa Picault was a U.S. national team player at one point. CJ Sapong. You had one Bosnian international in Harris Mandunanen. You had a Jamaican international in Andre Blake. One former Brazilian international in Ilsinho. And you don't get anything out of that 2017 season. Now, to Jim Curtin's credit, he was on DeMarcus Beasley's podcast a few months ago talking about that very season, saying, man, he got a lot wrong with the talent he had on that roster, couldn't figure out how to get the most out of those players, what formation to use. It was a wasted year. And to Jim's credit, he admits it now. And I'm sure what Jim Curtin knows as a head coach, if he could apply that back 2017, a lot would be different. Union would probably make the playoffs because that roster was good enough to make the playoffs, but a lot went wrong. Like I said, 3 blown U.S. Open Cup finals. And that's why it hurts a lot of you guys so much. You want to see the Union take the Open Cup serious. You want to see the Union get back to the final because you believe that Jim Curtin, that this roster is good enough to win the Open Cup. Doesn't happen this year, maybe next year, but I don't know. Seems like Don Garber and MLS don't really care about the U.S. Open Cup. Seems like they kind of want to distance themselves from that competition when you have the commissioner coming out talking about how some of these venues aren't worthy enough to host their players. They aren't safe enough to host their players. Come on now. It's the oldest competition in American sports. This is a huge deal. They were playing the U.S. Open Cup way before you were alive, Don Garber. Way before MLS was a thing. And you don't want to take this competition serious? Look at the FA Cup. Everybody loves those Cinderella stories, and I get it. It's a little bit of an embarrassment when your MLS team loses to a USL championship team. But that's why people love this competition, for those stories. And we all know MLS teams don't take that competition serious. But you Union fans have seen the Union be in that competition's final 3 times. And they've yet to win it. And it's the monkey they can't get off their back. And it's why you fans want to see them take this competition serious. Because you believe in this roster and you believe in Jim Curtin that they can do it. Wasn't meant to be this year. Again, maybe next year, but we'll see what MLS's stance is next year. Going back to the point, part of the last 5 seasons, and I'm not going to be as critical during those 2014, 2018 seasons as some of you fans. Because I think part of those 5 seasons were Ernie Stewart's fault, not giving Jim the right pieces. Jay wasn't investing as much money into the team as he is now under Ernst Tanner. Now, granted, the Unions still aren't one of the highest spending teams in MLS, but they take analytics a whole lot more seriously than they did under Ernie Stewart's leadership, which I think part of it was Jay Sugarman wouldn't give Ernie the resources that he wanted. And that's probably part of the reason why Ernie Stewart decided to leave the Union and take the U.S. national team job as their sporting director, which we all know he's now left that position and he's with PSV in the Netherlands. But Ernst Tanner has got Jay Sugarman to change his mind with investing more into the academy, investing more into analytics, giving them more money to spend on DPs. But we've seen Ernst Tanner come in here and scout better players for Jim, in which, to Jim Curtin's credit, he's helped develop those players into the players we all know and love today. And I'm not taking anything away from Jim in that regards because he deserves a lot of credit for developing those players. Yes, good on Ernst Tanner for finding players that could work in the system, that could be underrated players in MLS. But it's also on Jim to develop these players, to get these players to buy into the system. And that is one of the most underrated parts of Jim's game, is how much of a man manager he is, getting players to buy into the system, wanting to play in Philadelphia, wanting to bring a championship to Philadelphia. And some of you fans are probably still hurting from that MLS Cup loss last season. I don't have to remind you. And you saw it on the faces of those players, how much it hurt when they couldn't get it done. Because they wanted to. They want to bring a trophy back to Philadelphia. Yes, they did that with the Supporters' Shield. But they want to come back and win the actual cup. And maybe they get it done this year. We still have a lot of soccer to be played. But a lot of these players on this team, I guarantee you, if you showed them a map of the United States when they were living in the countries they were before they came to America, if you could ask them where Philadelphia is, I bet 80% of those players could tell you, I have no clue where Philadelphia is. But now they do. Now they know. They love Philadelphia. You see it all the time on social media. Their family, the players themselves, they're constantly posting pictures out in Philadelphia, talking about how much they love the city, the fans. And that's a credit to you, Jim Curtin, for getting those players to buy into the system, buy into the city, to fall in love with the fan base. Jim Curtin is maybe the greatest man manager in MLS the last couple seasons. And also, you got to look at Jim Curtin's skill of hiring the right assistant coaches. Because I can recall a conversation either at the beginning of this season or last year, Jim Curtin talking to me and saying there's a lot that he's learned from when he first took over as manager to where he is now. Where he first started, he was trying to do everything as the manager. And now, because he's grown so much, he delegates a lot of those tasks that he was doing early on all by himself to his assistant managers because he trusts them, because he's hiring the right pieces to take a load off of his shoulder where he can focus on other areas of the team. And to see Jim Curtin grow that way from 2014, where he's trying to do everything on his own, where he quickly realizes, I can't do this. I need other people. If I'm going to be a successful coach, I need to bring in people that have been head coaches elsewhere, coaches that have coached at the highest level. And that's exactly what we've seen Jim Curtin surround himself with ever since he's taken over. He's had terrific assistant managers that have coached internationally, that have coached national teams, that have coached elsewhere in MLS. And some of those managers have gone on to now coach teams of their own. Jim Curtin's growing that coaching tree. And so, yeah, Ernst Tanner for sure deserves a lot of the credit, and so does Jim Curtin. And this was a match made in heaven that none of us knew at the beginning. Can this work? We were all super excited about Ernst Tanner joining the club in 2018 and really getting a full swing of things in 2019, making this team his own. We weren't sure if Ernst Tanner was going to stick with Jim Curtin. We weren't sure. Could Jim Curtin work with Ernst Tanner? And it has. And hopefully it continues. Jim Curtin gets his contract through 2026. Hopefully we get an announcement soon here about Ernst Tanner wanting to renewing his contract until the 2026 season's over. Because Jim and Ernst both still have unfinished business here in Philadelphia. And so there's your long rant for the podcast, about a 18, 19-minute rant. Hopefully we don't go on any more long rants throughout the podcast. No guarantee, though. But let's go ahead and switch gears to the Atlanta United versus Philadelphia Union game. And you guys have heard me now the last couple weeks talking about the Union continuing to concede the first goal in games. 11 out of 20 games now this has happened so far this season. And they've done it 9 out of their 10 away games. And that's not a recipe for success. 5 goals given up in the first 15 minutes of games, which is tied for New England with the most. That's not going to get you far if you don't host games in the playoffs. Conceding early goals is not going to get you far in the playoffs. And this might be the last chance with majority of this roster to make a run at MLS Cup. And if you continue to concede early, to give up the first goal in the games, it's not going to be enjoyable for the Philadelphia Union. Now, like I said earlier, the good thing is there's still 14 regular season games to be played. You still have a whole bunch of home games to be played. You take care of your games at home, and you're guaranteed to get probably a couple home playoff games. But as things stand right now, Union currently sit in 6th place in the Supporters' Shield standings. Currently sit in 5th place in the Eastern Conference. Columbus just leapfrogged them. By the way, Columbus has been playing terrific soccer the last couple games. I think 16 out of 18 possible points. The last 6 games, unbelievable soccer from the Columbus crew under Wilfried Nancy. Which, by the way, I guess this is news that we could have talked about. 2024, the All-Star Game is going to Columbus. And I guess we could have talked about that. But I think it's funny how Don Garber was kissing Columbus's butt after he tried to take that franchise away from the Crew fans. After Anthony Precourt said, you know what, we want to go to Austin, Don Garber said, that sounds like a terrific idea. The stadium's all worn out in Columbus. These fans don't really care. Let's move the team to Austin. And boy, was Anthony Precourt, Don Garber, and the world of MLS awakened by the support by the Columbus Crew fans. Now Don Garber has to kiss their butts and talk about the history of the Crew. You know he had to be biting himself, praising Columbus after he tried to take their franchise away a couple seasons ago. But getting back on point, after getting distracted there, praising Columbus, Union sit in 5th place in the Eastern Conference. And a lot of soccer to be played. And they just can't. They cannot concede the first goal anymore. 11 out of 20 times this season. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Conceding early in games, it's ridiculous. And I feel bad for you guys listening to the podcast because I've been repeating myself the last couple weeks. And it gets tiring. I get it. Listening to me say the same thing. And I know if I'm repeating it, you guys know it. You guys feel the same way I do. It's unacceptable. Because when the Union concede first, and as early as they did, teams are just going to sit back and let the Union have the ball. And we all know this by now. The Union aren't a team that are meant to possess the ball. And there were moments in this game when the Union had nice build-up play, leading to chances. But those shots were blocked. By the way, the Union had 9 blocked shots in this game and only 1 shot on target. I can't remember the last time the Union had more blocked shots than they did shots on target. And maybe this was the first time ever in franchise history. Should have looked this up, but it would have taken forever. And you guys definitely wouldn't have got a Monday evening podcast, Tuesday morning podcast, whenever you guys are listening to this. But when I saw that, only 1 shot on target, they had more blocks than shots on target. That's unheard of. That doesn't happen in soccer, let alone the Philadelphia Union. But that's exactly what happened in this game. And there's a couple of reasons why the Union had so many block shots. Part of it's the Union are taking shots in bad areas. They're rushing shots. And then the other side of it is Atlanta's just defending well. They're in the right position to block their shots. And all game long, it seemed like Atlanta wanted it more than the Union. They were first to those 50-50 balls. They moved the ball quickly, caught the Union out multiple times on the counterattack. And one thing I'm starting to notice the last couple of weeks, and I don't know, are you guys noticing the same thing? It seems like the Union center backs are getting caught in 1v1 situations a whole bunch. And the Union center backs are getting turned way too easily. You saw it in Atlanta with Chol, with Amada, with Brooks Lennon. Jacob Glesnes, Jack Elliott, they got turned way too easily. You saw it against Orlando with Ojeda. Now, part of it is there's better attackers being brought into the league. And so it's always going to be tricky for those center backs to get it right 1v1 all the time. And we know the Union center backs aren't the quickest. And so it's easier for these attackers to turn them. And I know Jim Curtin has talked about in the past how he trusts his center backs to play 1v1. He trusts his defenders against any attackers in MLS. But it seems like the opposition is specifically targeting the center backs the last couple weeks, getting their best attackers in 1v1 situations against Glesnes and Elliott And that's something I'll ask Jim Curtin during this week and hopefully get an answer for you guys, because from what I've seen, it does seem like teams are deliberately attacking the Union a lot more 1v1. Maybe I'm tripping, but that's what it seems like. And maybe part of it too is, like I said, we're getting better attackers in the league. And the Union center backs maybe aren't as good as we thought they were when they're going up against 5, 6, $10 million players. When you look, Jack Elliott, a super draft pick. Jacob Glesnes brought in for less than $1 million. When you start comparing them to players that are costing millions of dollars, well, you hope those players can make a difference, be playmakers for you. And the last couple of years, the Union center backs have done well against those type of players, but this season, not so much. I want to go ahead and talk about the formation. A lot of questions by fans on social media about the formation. Why would they play Leon Flock as a left wing back? Where's Kai Wagner? Remember, he got injured against Miami, came out at halftime because of that hamstring injury. Wasn't able to be fit for this game against Atlanta. Jim said the day before they traveled down that Kai Wagner was out running. That's a good sign for his hamstring, so hopefully he'll be good to go one Saturday against the Galaxy. But yeah, this formation by the Union, playing Nate Harriel as one of your 3 center backs, Leon Flock as a left wing back. Yeah, the first 20 minutes of this game, Atlanta United were outstanding, switching the ball side to side, really stretching the Union. And Jim Curtin was asked after the game, what was the thinking? Why'd you guys start out the way you did, playing Leon Flock as a wingback, Nate Harriel as one of your 3 center backs? And this is Jim Curtin's thinking going into this match.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I think we both maybe overthought it and both adjusted to each other. So, right, you guys Atlanta's played out of a 4-man back line, I think all 20 games this year, and they changed to go against our diamond. And we thought, with their outside backs and Gutman and Lennon, that was their real advantage when they get forward. And we put 2 6s in there to take care of Almada. But both coaches changed formations, and that's why I think the first 15 minutes was a little chaotic on both sides. Little silly goal that we give away where we just get our feet tangled up with an intelligent striker who goes down. It leads to a restart, a free kick with Almada, which is dangerous. And he's a special player, and he killed us. So, yeah, the formation, I think both coaches, out of respect for each other's teams, maybe changed a little bit, almost maybe too much at the start. And then the game kind of settled down a little bit. We went back to our diamond and, had a few chances in the second half, but overall, we weren't sharp enough to take points today, and Atlanta deserved the 3 points.
Yeah, Atlanta definitely did deserve all 3 points in this game. Definitely were the better team from start to finish. Talked about it. They were first to 50-50 balls at the very start of the game. And going down to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, difficult place to play. And the Union haven't lost there in a bit and pick up the 2-0 defeat. But my thing is, right? You saw Atlanta cause all sorts of issues with their wingbacks, and you switch back to the diamond. Now you're playing Nate Harriel as a left back. Okay, Leon Flock's going back to his left-sided shuttler position. But why? Why at halftime, if you were going to stay in the diamond, why leave Nate Harriel out there, who's a right back? Why not bring in Matt Real? And this is what Jim Curtin had to say.
Yeah, Nate's athleticism, his ability, and he did a good job in it before for us against Cincinnati. Part of it too is with Kai being out, we wanted to shore up that side defensively. So we decided to play with 3 center backs. We had 2 6s to start the game to deal with Almada. They came out in a different formation and played more with wing backs and 3 center backs themselves. So we adjusted after 15 minutes. So yeah, a lot of little tweaks and changes in the game. But from the coaching staff to the players, we weren't sharp enough today. And when you come to this building, you have to be on your A game, and we weren't tonight.
I mean, I get starting with 2 6s, Martinez and Bedoya, because you want them to shut out Almada. All right, you want to be strong defensively on the left side. Liam Flock's a terrific defender. Nate Harriel's a terrific defender. But you switch back to the diamond at halftime. All right, it's not going to burn your sub. Why not bring in Matt Real? Because we saw Nate Harriel getting dragged way too far wide. And then sometimes he'd push over to your right. And now that's leaving a ton of space on the left side for Lennon and Chol. And Atlanta made the Union pay. And I think Jim Curtin made a statement in this game without saying it. And Jim can praise Matt Real all he wants. But when you keep Nate Harriel in there at left back over a natural left back in Matt Real, doesn't that say a lot about him? Just like you start Nate over a natural center back in Brandon Craig. There's a lot, I think Jim Curtin said this game against Atlanta with his lineup choices. I think he's saying a lot about his roster without actually saying anything. Maybe Matt Real isn't a left back. Maybe he's more of a left midfielder. Definitely not a wing back. Because if that's the case, wouldn't you have started him instead of Leon Flock? Jim Curtin has also spoke in the past about, wanting to have a left footer as one of his 3 center backs. That's why we've seen Kai Wagner play there before. Why not bring in Matt Real? Doesn't happen this game. And like I said, I think Jim Curtin's saying a lot without actually saying the words, how he feels about this roster. Maybe I'm completely off with that assessment, but that's what I took away from this. And so hopefully the Union in the summertime can make a couple moves, and backup striker, definitely being the number one need. When the Union were down goals this game, couldn't get anything from Jack McGlynn, Quinn Sullivan, Joaquin Torres off the bench. And missing Corey Burke. Having a player, okay, Corey's not the greatest players in the world, but he scored you 7-8 goals last season. Majority of them were off the bench, and now you don't have a proven goal scorer coming off the bench this season. So hopefully the Union can adjust that before the summer transfer window closes. They have plenty of time, but hopefully, they can get something done. Another thing that stood out to me in this game was poor crossing / finishing. Only 2 out of 20 crosses this game were completed, both of them by Daniel Gazdag. The service was really poor once again, and I do feel bad for you guys because I'm repeating myself from the last couple podcasts, but it's the same issues over and over and over again. Bad crosses into the box. Crosses way too close to Brad Guzan. Bad shot selection that didn't test the goalie. Shots blocked. Tried to play the ball quickly to Mikhail Uhre up top, but the ball would either come late and now Mikhail Uhre is offsides, or maybe they would mishit the ball. And there was a couple moments in this game where it was good build-up play by the Union. We saw the Union try to play quickly on throw-ins, but Atlanta United was ready for them. But just overall, and Jim said it, wasn't good enough wasn't good from the Union, and this is a game that they need to move on and just forget about. And it's really difficult to try to find positives in this game. And I think I'm really stretching a bit here where I'm saying this was the only positive in the game. And there was no injuries for the Union. We see Yakimakis exit the game in the 30th minute due to a non-contact injury. Now, the good thing is he walked off on his own, but another injury to turf. And Atlanta United, they swear up and down that their turf's the best turf in all of sports. Messi's going to come and play on this turf, no questions asked. But how many injuries have we seen at Mercedes-Benz Stadium the last couple of years? And we're not even just talking about Atlanta United. We're talking about the Falcons as well. Teams that come into Mercedes-Benz Stadium and suffer injuries on the same exact turf. It's a positive, right? That the Union didn't have anybody get injured. And it sucks that the Union couldn't take advantage that Atlanta lost their best striker. Now they're down a goal-scoring threat. The Union couldn't take advantage of that. But like Jim said, Atlanta United 100% deserved to win this game. We're the better team on the night from start to finish. And I do want to call out a group of people real quick. And that's the people that were calling out Joe Bendik. And I've also talked about that on this podcast the last couple of weeks. Joe Bendik's a great leader. A great player to have make a spot start here or there. To rely on him for your whole season, week in, week out, yeah, it's asking for trouble. But I see fans just absolutely bashing this guy. Saying, oh, we lost this game because of Joe Bendik. Does Andre Blake make the save on the second goal? Probably. That wasn't the best from Joe Bendik. But the first goal that he conceded, and this is what I saw a lot of fans upset about on Twitter. Saying, oh, that was poor from Joe Bendik. Why didn't he move? Spoiler alert, Andre Blake's not saying that either. It's a terrific hit from Thiago Almada. There's a reason why he was selected to be a part of that Argentina squad that won the World Cup over France this past World Cup. He's a talented player. And he'll probably leave Atlanta United in the summer, at least you would think. I mean, he's too talented for this league. He's by far the most talented player in MLS. Maybe the most talented to ever step foot in MLS, but I think Hani Mukhtar would like to have a word. But Andre Blake's not saving that first goal either. And fans were saying, oh, maybe we shouldn't have traded Matt Freese. But you got to ask yourself, if you're one of those people saying, oh, we shouldn't have traded Matt Freese. Matt was never going to get a chance here in Philadelphia. Andre Blake has a spot here in the starting 11 for as long as his body can handle starting and for as long as Andre wants it. And so you're just going to let Matt Freese continue to sit on the bench and now lose his value? What if Matt Freese decides, yeah, I'm not going to re-sign a new deal with the Union, and now you lose him on a free? At least they got something for Matt Freese. And look, he's sitting on the bench in New York right now. And I think that's part of the reason why fans are like, oh, we shouldn't have traded Matt Freese, because with the Gold Cup and everything, Matt Freese could be playing instead of Joe Bendik. But the Union got up to $750,000 in game, plus a sell-on fee. They got something for a player that was never going to start over Andre Blake. A player that has primarily been on the bench for the Union. You get good money for him to go and do the same thing he was doing on your team in New York City now. Why wouldn't you accept that trade? You know that Joe Bendik's a capable goalkeeper. He has MLS experience. As the rain continues to pour down harder, so sorry if you guys hear that in the background. We'll try to get rid of most of that in post-production, but I'm sure there's going to be a little bit coming through your earbuds here in a little bit. But I don't blame the Union at all trading Matt Freese. I don't blame the Union for starting Joe Bendik the last couple games over Holden Trent. But there are some people on social media that act like it's the worst thing in the world, that act like Joe Bendik's the worst player to ever play for the Union. And that can't be farther from the truth. And so let's go ahead and quickly go over 3 stars because we still have the goal breakdowns to get to, which, by the way, you guys can check out the YouTube videos. And we're going to include all 9 block shots because there was only 2 goals scored in this game. And got to find a way to have longer content. So let's go ahead and show all 9 block shots and talk over them. So youtube.com/freekickpod to check out the latest videos. As always, thank you for everybody that leaves comments, likes the videos, subscribes to the page, shares the videos. It means a lot that people support me and my coverage of the Philadelphia Union. I appreciate you guys. I really do. But 3 stars real quick. Starting at 3, and I feel like this might be a stretch. Daniel Gazdag had the most chances created on the team, 3. 7 passes into the final third. The only shot on target. Not much else can be said about Daniel Gazdag. Had an okay game. Just an okay game. Number 2, Leon Flock. 1 chance created. That pass into Mikael Uhre for his first shot of the game, which was blocked. Great ball in by Leon. Great run forward by him as well. 18 out of 21 completed passes. 2 out of 4 tackles won. 2 interceptions. 3 ball recoveries. 5 out of 6 ground duels won. In the last couple of weeks here, Leon Flock has been playing at a all-star level. If Leon Flock could have started at this level at the beginning of the season, maybe he would have been with the national team at the Gold Cup. But it doesn't happen. But Leon Flock's been playing terrific, and I think that's part of the reason, too. We've seen linking him to the championship, to small English Premier League clubs, to the Bundesliga. And if Leon Flock continues to play at this level, that $3 million asking price that the Union are supposedly asking for, it's going to quickly go up to $4 million, potentially $4.5 million. So it's good to see Leon Flock playing great here the last couple of weeks, but you won't get fans on social media giving him credit that he deserves. And then starting number 1, Jose Martinez, 8 passes into the final third, 2 out of 2 tackles won, 1 block, 4 interceptions, 7 ball recoveries, 7 out of 10 ground duels won. And he also won 4 fouls for the Union. Jose Martinez continues to play at an all-star level. Was the only player on the night that seemed like he wanted to show up and try to get points for the Union down in Atlanta. We saw a huge ball won off of Thiago Almada in the second half by Jose Martinez. I posted that video on Twitter if you guys have Twitter. If Twitter's still working for you guys. I don't even know what's going on with Twitter. That should get blunder of the week, right? Find some way to tie Twitter, soccer Twitter. There you go. There's blunder of the week. But we have a better blunder of the week than giving it to Elon Musk and what he's done to Twitter ever since he's taken over. Although now, the more I'm talking about it, thinking about it, maybe that should have been blunder of the week. But like I said, your 3 stars, Daniel Gazdag, Leon Flock, and Jose Martinez. Let's go ahead, quickly go over the goal breakdowns. And I don't know, it feels weird. We haven't done this in a while on the podcast. Feels like it should just be a YouTube thing, but 2 goals, not much to break down. So the first one comes off of a Free kick situation from Thiago Almada. The wall does its job, blocks it, but nobody closes down the ball. You only see Ale Bedoya leaving the wall, trying to close down this ball, and the ball falls perfectly to Thiago Almada. Hits it on the volley. Has Joe Bendik completely cemented in place. How Thiago Almada gets this ball around the wall that's still in place. Nobody closes the ball down other than Bedoya, like I said. Terrific accuracy and pace on this ball by a player that is too good for MLS. He's been their star man the last year and a half, and what a signing he has been for Atlanta United. Goal number 2, Brooks Lennon. And this is a terrific goal by Atlanta. It comes from a throw-in on the left-hand side of the field. They're going to go ahead and just play the ball around the back, and the Union just don't get pressure on the ball. All right. Well, Atlanta, they have no problem just passing it around side to side. And then the Union decide to finally start to press. They get caught with too many players for it. Atlanta, great awareness to find the open man, move the ball quickly, and now they're going to send players forward. So you have Thiago Almada going 1v1 against Jacob Glesnes, slots the ball into a wide open teammate, eventually receives the ball back, and the Union just get caught way too committed on the left-hand side. Too many players commit to Thiago Almada, and he finds a wide open Brooks Lennon on the right side of the field. You guys heard me talking about Nate Harriel getting sucked over to the right side too often in this game. It happens here on this goal. Terrific finish by Brooks Lennon. Should Joe Bendik, should he have saved this? Probably. Andre Blake makes a save 100%. But even if Atlanta United don't score there, they're still going to beat the Union regardless. Union just couldn't finish their chances. And I know we saw 2 years ago the Union were down 2 goals in the 80th minute. Corey Burke, Jacob Glesnes scores that triple doink to get a point for the Union down in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Doesn't happen this weekend. And hopefully the Union can get points in LA this weekend. And then they head to Nashville on a Wednesday. Then they're back home against New York City on July 15th. And then we have the Leagues Cup. So busy road trip here for the Union. Starts off horribly in Atlanta, but credit to Atlanta United for being the better team and shutting out the Union, which has been a difficult thing to do the last couple of years. And the Union get shut out for the first time this season since their matchup in April, I want to say, against Cincinnati. Early April, I want to say that game was, where they lost that game 1-0, where Nate Harriel also started in a back 3 as one of the center backs of that game as well. But real quick, let's go over blunder of the week. And like I said, I was convincing myself there a couple times. Maybe I should give it to Elon Musk for killing Twitter, killing soccer Twitter. But if you guys haven't seen the videos on social media, and I'm not going to repost them, I'm not going to put them in the show descriptions. You guys can find them if you really want to. The scenes watching Mexican fans fighting each other during the Mexico and Qatar game and the Gold Cup, which Mexico lost 1-0. I mean, it's... Why would you fight your own fans? Why? You're there to support your country. And now, you continue to make a bad reputation for Mexican national fans. But what's even worse is somehow a fan got a knife into the stadium and started stabbing another fan? How's that possible? How do you get a knife through security One, that's poor security. I mean, don't you go through metal detectors? How don't you pick up a knife? If CONCACAF can't guarantee safety, we've got real issues with the World Cup coming here in 2026. If you can't guarantee fans are going to be safe at soccer games, how do you expect to host a World Cup? Makes no sense to me. Why fans would fight each other, how a knife gets into the stadium. I know it's super difficult at Subaru Park to get through the stadium. At least that's been my experience. Got to take your cell phone out, got to take your keys out. And if anything beeps, they're taking that wand and they're making sure that you have no weapon on you. When I'm going through the media gate, they're searching all throughout my backpack to make sure I have nothing in there that shouldn't be in there. So how a knife gets through security and then used against your own fans, it's not a good look for the Mexican Federation. Which we know, there's been a lot of controversy, a lot of negativity around this national team with the play, with the lack of play on the field, with the fans. And now here's just another dull moment in the Mexican team history. Yeah, I'm stunned. I'm stunned that a knife gets through the stadium. I'm stunned that you would feel the need to fight your own fans, people from the same country as you. Why? I mean, I'm sure alcohol's to blame. And isn't that why we see their cutoffs? Is it in the 7th or 8th inning now in MLB where, okay, they want you to work off that intoxication before the game's over? That's why they have the cutoff in baseball. Is that still a thing? Because I remember there was a lot of people complaining about that when MLB announced, okay, the 7th inning, all stadiums are going to cut off alcohol sales because these games are going faster, and that means that you're not going to be able to burn off this alcohol fast enough. And so we want to guarantee the safety of our fans. And so I guess this is what happens, right? When you mix alcohol with people that maybe are having a little bit too much to drink and they don't know how to control their emotions and they fight their own countrymen. So sad scenes. And I'm not going to share the video. Like I said, you guys, maybe some of you have already seen them on social media. Maybe some of you guys are going to go ahead and look them up after you listen to this podcast. But that's pretty much everything from me. Extremely tired. If you guys can tell during this episode, extremely hot, working outdoors. But, you know, you got to do what you got to do sometimes. And I wanted to get you guys a podcast episode for your 4th of July since I'm going to assume most of you guys are off. So if you are off, well-deserved time off with friends and family. If you're working, good on you. Hopefully you're getting that holiday pay. Happy 4th to all of you guys that are listening. And I know we have a couple people in the United Kingdom that are listening to the podcast who, you know, might not be a little bit happy about the 4th of July. But here in America, we're going to celebrate our independence. But if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow Free Kick Pod, wherever you get your podcasts, The Free Kick. And again, probably no preview episode this week for LA Galaxy. Not sure about Nashville, New York City. There's somebody I have in mind. Hopefully we can get something worked out, but we shall see. But again, until then, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.